Well, hello there. Good morning and a very warm welcome to today, this Wednesday, the 12th of July, 2023. We are happy to have you with us this morning, and we'll be taking you through a lot that is happening across the country, what is taking attention, what is likely to happen both locally and internationally. And obviously, even today, we are looking at what is happening within the country. The president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be hosting the Iranian president in the country to talk about different things that of course concerns the relations between Uganda and Iran. And this Wednesday we know that he will also be taking him to Kenyena, where they will be addressing a business forum to look at the relations there. Of course, UBC will be following those proceedings and giving you more updates on that event as Uganda hosts the Iranian president. But also, the president did mention through his Twitter handle, I was reading, that he will be later this week addressing the country about issues concerning anti-terrorism as well as crime within the country. And we always look forward to what the president always gives, the guidelines, and obviously that is one thing that puts Ugandans at peace, knowing that the head of state is actually very much aware of what is going on and maybe is able to give more information regarding what has been happening within the country for the last couple of months. We have seen a lot of things, especially the incidents, the terror attack in Kasese. The anticipation is that he will throw more light on that, and of course how the country is prepared and how we continue to prepare for some of these terror attacks. We know that security organizations have been on the forefront of that, but we do hope that the president is able to address that. And of course, regarding crime, we know that the Uganda police does collaborate with other security organs as well to reduce crime in this country. We know that that is something that he will be focused on, to talk more about how Ugandans should also be well aware and obviously very, very concerned about what is happening across the country. Well, I do have the two gentlemen with me here, Robert Kirabo as well as Felix. Felix, good morning. What is catching your attention this Wednesday?
Well, good morning. How are you, Mollen?
I am doing all right.
So what's with the brown and is it coffee brown or what is it, light brown? I'm trying to differentiate it with Roberts.
Well, I don't know how you mix colors, but for me, it looks good on me, so that's why I chose it.
That's the qualification.
Yeah, it looks good on me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, Wednesday is here. It's another beautiful day. The week is really fast tracking, and we already almost close to half into the month of July. Mm-hmm. Clearly, we are also running fast towards the end of the year, but much has been achieved at various levels, just like what we did see yesterday. A couple of stories still, and of course, this whole thing. There's a law, apparently, that gives right to police to track off any car that has been stuck there for 2 hours in townships and 6 hours in other areas. But it has probably never been implemented. If a car breaks down on the road, there's a law that gives the police a right to track it off in 2 hours if it's in a township. And that person, I think the owner should pay a fine or something. And if it's probably out of the towns, in 6 hours. Mm. But have you ever seen such an act happen? I don't know if you've didn't even hear of it, not until yesterday, when Parliament took time off to pay tribute and eulogize the fallen. There's also a member of Parliament who did lose his life in a road accident. Also in the same spirit, the late now Aponyi. So this is when this came to light. But
and especially those big trucks, usually they get faulty or issues on the road and they are kept there for hours. And usually they don't even put the signpost before so that the drivers can be aware. You just get to bump into the truck.
There's a lot of carelessness on roads, and clearly we must deal with that and answer that particular part, because it's become now a scare that we have to deal with. And I think we are losing people every day. Every day we lose people. But the big question is, what can be done and what's being done.
Yeah.
So it's clearly something for us to do cause a principality in attribution.
Well, clearly that is something that we would want also the police to be really focused on. We can avoid a lot of fatalities on the roads due to accidents. Robert, good morning. How is your Wednesday starting off?
Beautiful, I must say. It is a Women Crush Wednesday. There's so much happening, but we are here yet again to spice up your mornings, to brighten up your mornings. I don't know how your night was, but one thing I know is when you choose to start your day with us here at Good Morning Uganda, there's so much that we have to ignite the potential in you for today. So thank you so much for making that wise decision by starting. I'll begin with accidents. It is the Traffic and Road Safety Act that talks about a vehicle that has been abandoned for police to tow it to a police station or NSF parking yard at the owner's cost. But this, for some time, has not been very muchly implemented. I think most of the times I've seen this done is on the 3rd of June, Namugongo. For what reason? There, even if you leave a car for about 1.5 hours, police tows the vehicle and you pay. But this is a section of the law that they have not been looking into so much. 2022. And accidents had increased from 17,000 that we had in 2021 to 20,000 by 2022. Now, from 17,000 to 20,000, that is an increase of about 4,000 accidents. About mathematics, about 3,000, if I calculate very well, an increase of about 3,000 accidents. But of these, 4,000 were fatal. Now, when we talk about a fatal accident, that is an accident that involved the loss of lives. So this is a very big problem that we need to address, and I saw parliamentarians yesterday trying to talk about it, the various proposals that every time we had such a situation where we've lost a VIP, Parliament talks so much, right from the days of Francis Ayume. Every time we've heard people perish in accidents, Parliament, they would talk. But I think there's something that lacks there. So it's very important that we look at the issue of accidents seriously and broadly, but above all, they came up to point all fingers to police.
Yeah.
And there is so much lacking. And if I had more time, I think this is something I would say where I also fault police, more so traffic police. There is so much of complacency, there is so much of unfocusedness. This morning I was at work. I passed Ginger Road roundabouts. I saw about 15 motorcycles of police, these ones that they gave them to patrol and do what, and they generous, they are talking. There is so much that I think the police is losing either direction or supervision. People could you know, if you're talking, they may say they are under-resourced, but are they using the resources they have for the right work? When we look at these highway patrols, you know, because the word patrol means you're not stationed. You're moving around to discover any danger around. These patrols, you find them Bajikwese and Mastiko. That someone doesn't see them. They're just waiting to extort money. There's so much that must be put to order in this institution.
Well,
so very much.
We're seeing more of government accusing police actually, because even then the state minister for transport, that is Honorable Fred Byamukama, also did accuse police of taking bribes when it comes to issuing out several driving permits. Now this all leads to the fact that then we get poor drivers on the roads, and he did say that police should be responsible for the road carnage, the increasing number in road carnage that Ugandans continue to see on a daily, and to a higher extent, I also kind of agree with the minister saying that this could be one of the reasons that we're seeing accidents. We do have raw or untrained and professional drivers on the roads that are carelessly driving, and that is why we're seeing high numbers increasing. But while a lot of things are happening within the country as well, we'll be looking at the local stories. Robert and Felix will be getting us through that. Robert.
We're looking at what we have this morning. Local stories will begin with, that is the president who met with Muslim leaders at State House Entebbe to address their concerns and promised to assist them in developing themselves according to Sharia laws should they encounter any difficulties with the current parish development model. The meeting was attended by prominent figures: Sheikh Abed Kamlegea, Sheikh Sulaiman Kasule Ndirangwa, Sheikh Muhammad Yunus Kamoga, and Professor Muhammad Lubega.
One of thousands of citizens converged to Boma grounds in Albitong district to celebrate World Population Day, and the day on the theme prioritize free education, prevent school dropouts, and improve household incomes. Now emphasizes the need to promote education among young Ugandans to control the high rates of population growth.
And away from Population Day celebrations, we now move to Kikube district, where over 8,000 people who had set up a camp in the land adjacent to the Resident District Commissioner's office in Kikube district are facing the threat of eviction by the owner of the property. These individuals came from 1,889 households in 28 villages of Kasoga Parish, Kyangwali sub-county in Kikube district. They were previously evicted by the Office of the Prime Minister in 2013 on grounds that they are illegally settling on the land designated for Kyangwali refugee settlement camp.
Now, the death of prominent business person road usage in Uganda. Parliament has faulted law implementers for failing the road usage policy in Uganda, paving way for the increase of road accidents. Now, in a response, the Minister of State for Transport, Fred Byamukama, decries corruption eating up the Uganda driver's licensing system.
And moving on to the international stories, NATO states have said Ukraine can join the military alliance when allies agree and conditions are met, after President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized the absurd delay to accession. In a communique, NATO said it recognized the need to move faster but would not be drawn on a timeline. Earlier, Mr. Zelensky said there seemed to be no readiness to invite Ukraine to NATO and make it a member. He is now in the Ruthenian capital, Vilnius, where the summit is happening. Kyiv accepts it cannot join NATO while it is at war with Russia, but wants to join as soon as possible after fighting ends. And Muslim nations, including Iran and Pakistan, say that the desecration of the Holy Quran amounts to an incitement of violence and have called for accountability after a series of stunts in Sweden caused a backlash around the world. A motion filed at the United Nations Human Rights Body on Tuesday in response to the latest incidents last month calls on countries to review their laws and plug gaps that may impede the prevention and prosecution of acts and advocacy of religious hatred. Now in Sudan, a power struggle between Sudanese Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his former deputy Mohamed Haldan, commander of the paramilitary Rapid Support Force, spilled into war in mid-April and has since killed thousands of people and displaced millions. The East African Regional Bloc, IGAD, has invited the force to a meeting in Ethiopia's capital on Monday, while fighting still raged across Sudan. Neither Burhan nor Daglo personally attended the talks in Addis Ababa, although the RSF sent a representative to meet to the meeting that was led by Kenya, South Sudan, Djibouti and Ethiopia. Now in climate news, preliminary data gathered by climate scientists suggest that the first week of July was the planet's hottest week on record, with blazing temperatures around the world and ocean temperatures in some regions much higher than the climate change models had predicted. On July 7th, the hottest single day ever recorded up to this point, the average global surface temperatures was 17.24 degrees Celsius, which is 0.3 degrees above the previous record of 16.94 degrees set in August 2016, according to the World Meteorological Organization. Scientists were particularly alarmed because these high temperatures occurred in advance of the establishment of the El Niño weather pattern in the Pacific, which is expected to elevate global temperatures later this year and into 2024. Oh, quite a lot of stories happening across the world. I did get a bit of attention with Ukraine having been delayed for the invite into NATO. I think they were very much looking forward to this. And I don't know why for some reason NATO now is not really taking on Ukraine, yet at first, you know, like someone pushing you to do something, saying we are behind you, and then when you look back and you want them to hold your hand, they're like, okay, well, hold on a bit. Felix, I don't know what you think about this.
They're with them in spirit. they're with the... Of course, you know, there are lots of fears that come with this Russia-Ukraine thing, honestly. Everyone is trying to play safe, if you've noticed. Yeah. Everyone is playing safe. And with this whole promise, when they ask them that it's clear for us to take you in without war. Because when we carry on with this war, you would entirely take all of us in the war. Because that's the policy, it's as simple as that. You know?
So they are waiting for the war to end and then
we can't take you on.
But this is when they need NATO most.
No. And okay, and what happens to NATO? You need NATO, how about NATO? Yeah, you may need it, but now, where does that leave NATO?
It's kind of confusing.
So at the end of the day, it looks like the joining of Ukraine into the NATO League will be entirely about using NATO for its own survival in this war, and that's how it looks. So it's truly thumb grabbing in this way.
But NATO is already involved
in the curtains.
Yes.
Yeah, but
from the curtains, you can't prove that. You know it, but you can't prove it.
Because we do not have NATO forces there.
But you know it, but you can't prove it. Yes, and that's how it's supposed to be.
If they were officially involved, then it would be a different story.
So they are operating, like
behind
you say,
behind the curtains, tactfully playing safe, at one point even coming up with denials. It wasn't us, we didn't, you know, and also they're feeling the pinch. I think this Ukraine-Russia war, they didn't expect it to escalate this far. That's why now Ukraine is having a hard time. That some of the people who pledged support are seeing that the investment is far-reaching their incomes, and they're kind of trying to
withdraw their support.
It's a very complicated situation right now, and of course it's now obvious because the North Atlantic the union that brings them together would say, you've not been our member, fine, and if it's at this time that you need us most, well, what does this mean? If they were a member before and they were attacked by Russia, it would be a different story, we would hold them, but you coming in at this time, it means something else.
In that news statement, I could tell the disappointment on President Volodymyr Zelensky on this. I think he had a lot of hopes that they would take him on quite quickly. And well, the whole world knew that, you know, behind curtains there has been support, but these guys are also saying, wait a minute, we don't want to officially be known for that. But well, we will wait and see how things unveil. There are a lot of stories as well happening and making headlines into our dailies. Felix, what do we have today in the Daily Monitor?
Well, of course, still in the papers, and we're looking at the big headline, new terms for LCs spark legal crisis. And of course, find questions of English, mathematics, and science for pulling out for your toddlers. And labs up in arms over ring fencing of DNA tests. Equally, I found this very unfair.
Only 2 labs.
It's very unfair. It's very
Government
unfair.
Analytical Lab and MBN.
We don't know. You see, what the basis was for this. You don't come out and just say 2 institutions will deal with this in the whole country.
Yes.
I think they're
It's a very sensitive issue.
And
no, even if it was.
Maybe others didn't qualify to what the guidelines they put.
That she didn't say. She simply said, unless, like, there's a lot. Anyway, it is what it is.
Maybe it is one way to limit people.
Why do you want to limit people?
Because this
Why?
thing is
That's not the duty of government.
For me, my threat, Felix, in this DNA thing,
of
why I could agree with the decision of the ministry is, you know, Ugandans are very crafty people. We had laboratories, almost clinics, every health facility had come into the DNA thing because they had noticed it is one way of getting money, and tough regulation would enable streamline and know who to hold accountable. Because
when you give only 2
fast.
institutions to do that, that's not streamlining, that's not tough, whatever you're saying. Now anyway, how 9 people perished in a park boat accident, and KCCA executives' contracts expire. Now MPs ask URA to explain unauthorized expenditure.
That's a good one. Will they explain that?
What? Yes.
Spending on what?
Extra expenditure. Their budget ran and they had to get have a pushover.
Now there is need for accountability. Well, quite a lot happening. We'll be looking into more papers quite later on, but for now we will be taking you through an inspirational song for the day. Being a Wednesday, we get to have a sensation into music that is done by, you know, some of the phenomenal women across the world. We always do that every Wednesday, and this morning will be the same. When we get back, we get into our newsreel, where we do have a topical discussion, one that we would like you to be a part of. Of course, you can follow us on our Twitter, as well as we do have our WhatsApp number. Those will be appearing on the screen, and you can get involved and have this discussion with us. For now, have a good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, hello there. Good morning and a very warm welcome to today, this Wednesday, the 12th of July 2023. We are happy to have you with us this morning, and I will be taking you through a lot that is happening across the country, what is taking attention, what is likely to happen both locally and internationally. And obviously, even today, we are looking at what is happening within the country. The President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be hosting the Iranian president in the country to talk about different things that of course concerns the relations between Uganda and Iran. And this Wednesday we know that he will also be taking him to Chengera, where they will be addressing a business forum to look at the relations there. Of course, UBC will be following those proceedings and giving you more updates on that event as Uganda hosts the Iranian president. But also, the president did mention through his Twitter handle, I was reading, that he will be later this week addressing the country about issues concerning anti-terrorism as well as crime within the country. And we always look forward to what the president always gives, the guidelines, and obviously that is one thing that puts Ugandans at peace, knowing that the head of state is actually very much aware of what is going on and maybe is able to give more information regarding what has been happening within the country. For the last couple of months, we have seen a lot of things, especially the incidents, the terror attack in Kasese. The anticipation is that he will throw more light on that, and of course how the country is prepared and how we continue to prepare for some of these terror attacks. We know that security organizations have been on the forefront of that, but we do hope that the president is able to address that. And of course, regarding crime, we know that the Uganda police does collaborate with other security organs as well to reduce crime in this country. We know that that is something that he will be focused on, to talk more about how Ugandans should also be well aware and obviously very, very concerned about what is happening across the country. Well, I do have the two gentlemen with me here, Robert Kirabo as well as Felix. Felix, good morning. What is catching your attention this Wednesday?
Well, good morning. How are you, Mollen?
I am doing all right.
So what's with the brown and is it coffee brown or what is it, light brown? I'm trying to differentiate it with Robert's.
Well, I don't know how you mix colors, but for me, it looks good on me, so that's why I chose it.
That's the qualification.
Yeah, it looks good on me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, Wednesday is here. It's another beautiful day. The week is really fast tracking, and we already almost close to half into the month of July. Mm-hmm. Clearly, we are also running fast towards the end of the year, but much has been achieved at various levels.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. His reason is to be the GOAT. The reason to imagine is to take the beat and make it lit. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
My name is Abel Bakunda, Deputy RDC Kirabo District. There are so many success stories and achievements that have been registered in Kirabo District and cutting across all the sectors and departments. The government interest is to have seed schools in almost every sub-county. And so far, the coverage in Kirabo, we are still like at 40%. We are starting, but we are moving at a high speed. Then the Uganda Health Center, it is also a success story in the Department of Health. We are so far also government is elevating the Manya Health Center for the district hospital. Then in the Department of Production, there are so many successful farmers moving far away from the traditional subsistence farming to the money economy. Our interventions of Myoga and PDM have so far had impacts on ground. Generally, it is good. We are trying, and there are so many success stories that anybody can come and see on ground.
Road traffic crashes is one of the leading causes of death among young people aged 5 and 29 years. In 2022, Uganda registered 21,473 crashes, out of which 4,534 people died and 15,227 seriously injured. 22 people die every 100 crashes, and on average, we lose 12 people daily. Legacy Road Safety Initiative in partnership with KCCA, Ministry of Works and Transport, Ministry of Health, Uganda Police Force, Red Cross, Rosaku, Boda Boda Industry Uganda have organized the second Road Safety Marathon for the crash victims to help create awareness, build cohesion among stakeholders, train first responders at black spots, and support a health facility. The marathon will take place on the 23rd of July 2023, starting at 7 a.m. from Nakasero Primary School grounds. Book your kits at 25,000 from Legacy Road Safety Initiative offices located at Old Kampala Chicken House, 2nd floor, room 18, or 8th Street, Safeway, Rightway offices, Total Energies, Ovino Mall, Boda Boda Industry Uganda, or visit www.lrs-initiative.org to register. Call 0752 605 479 or 0776 598 817 or 0414 698 675. Proudly powered by Daxi Driving School and Wava Water. Run to save a limb.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Oh, good morning, Uganda. Now, if you're just joining us, we're looking at our newsreel this morning, and what is concerning, we're looking at the increasing road carnage in the country, and we're looking at specifically the accidents, the number of fatalities that have been a result of these road accidents and what it's being attributed to. We want to look more into that. We know that police usually gives out these reports on occasionally, and what is very clear is that the numbers keep going up. Now, there has been a lot of interventions by police and some of the initiatives that were put across to at least monitor and look at how these are happening and probably also control the drivers on the roads. We know that there has been an initiative to put cameras on almost the highways. We don't know how effective that has been, but also more onto the kind of drivers that do drive on Ugandan roads. Now, yesterday, we also did see parliamentarians being very, very much accusing Uganda police of being responsible for these accidents on the roads, where the State Minister for Transport did say, that is Honorable Fred Byamukama, did say that police is to be accused of especially taking bribes while issuing out driving permits, meaning that that puts us into a situation where we have unprofessional drivers on the roads that could equally contribute to road accidents. And we want to look into mostly what this attributed to, and I'll bring in Robert here. Each time we're looking at this topic, each time we're looking at accidents in the country, we are taking on police at least somehow being involved, and now we're seeing parliamentarians also accusing them of different things, especially when it comes to issuing of driving permits. What can be attributed to this increasing number in the road accidents?
First, I want to categorically state, beyond record and very clear, that what we call accidents in Uganda, most so road accidents, are necessarily not accidents. You see, English is a complicated language, yet very easy. An accident must be, in my opinion, an act of God or something beyond your control. Maybe you are driving and because of bad weather, but even with bad weather, you know your mind the weather is bad, you shouldn't overspeed. But most of the times what we have in Uganda are preventable uncertainties that claim life, that cause injuries due to people driving, riding, and sometimes even those walking. Pedestrian can cause an accident. And that's why, if I could avoid the word accident, there is no way you're going to leave home with a car that is faulty in the braking system, and you even tell your partner or your friends, Robert, then after 30 minutes, we hear that you've perished in a road accident. And then we say, he has died of an accident. Clearly, and also you knew. Someone tells you, this car, the lights have a problem. I can't see properly. Think the bulbs or something like that. But I'm going to Kampala. I'm going to Ntungamo. I've listened to a number of what we call accidents. I've interacted with survivors because in my time, I had an opportunity to spend 6 good years when what puts food on table is covering crime and accidents. Every day you wake up. That was my beat. And most of the times I would interact either with survivors, or you would go to do a story and you go on scene, or the traffic officer. But I want to tell you, most of the stories that would be told by the survivors, people tell you, omusajja abaddaduka emotoka netumwegaira sibasibamu kendeza kusupidi, and they're telling stories that were really showing they knew an accident is going to happen. Try to symbol, you know, a colleague told him, why didn't you first go to the garage and rectify that problem? Say, no, I'll work on it when you have come back. But the car could not break. So they are preventable. This week at the press conference, the traffic spokesperson came out and said most of the accidents that were registered, we registered 447 accidents in a spell of a week, because these weekly press conferences are held per week. Now 447 accidents, of which 64 were fatal. Now a fatal accident means it claimed life. One van or one may have a number of people. And now when you look at persons we lost in these accidents, were 77. Lives were lost. Those that were injured were 364. That is, but he said majority of these accidents were caused by overspeeding and reckless driving. Now, if you tell me overspeeding and reckless driving, are these not preventable? Are these like an act of God that you're driving and all of a sudden a cow comes from nowhere, enters the road, and you just couldn't survive that accident? Or a tree from nowhere. I ever witnessed one scenario, you're driving as around Masaka Road and maybe an eagle wanted to pick something, and on the mirror just had a bang, said, yes, this is a what? Because maybe it wanted to pick something from the road and it was caught up, the car staggered, but that maybe would be an accident. Not these that we are talking about. You're saying, I'm leaving this particular place, I must be in Kampala tomorrow morning, I have a meeting. Do whatever it takes, we must arrive in Kampala. You know? So you fly. You don't drive, but you fly. So that is the biggest challenge. When we look at our report, and these statistics worry, crime report 2021-2022, go to the traffic section. And 2021, you had 17,000 road accidents in 1 year. That's a very big number. In 2022, the number increases to 20,000 accidents. Look at that, about 3,000. Felix and Mollen, you told me you did sciences. I think that's about 3,000. Sitomera. So that increase is quite big. Now, these accidents, 4,000 of them are fatal accidents, meaning they claim the lives. So we have a very big problem. I've just seen an advert there that talks about, on average, we lose 12 people due to road accidents But the number is bigger than that, I must say, because that is maybe what is captured at police.
You do bring out good points, especially on the side of the people driving on the roads themselves, because, you know, overspeeding, that might not need for police to come in and tell you, please do not overspeed.
Drunken driving.
Exactly. So some of
Driving
these
a
things
vehicle
that...
under poor mechanical conditions, the DMCs. You know, because much as the police has a problem, they are not the ones who are going to die. It is you who is going to die. So me, I wanted to start with personal responsibility. When you go and secure a driving license, going through any driving school, without knowing that I'm fit to be on the road, and you bribe your way through, I don't think you're cheating yourself.
Right there on that point,
I mean,
when
you're
you're talking
cheating the
about
police.
when
You're
you're talking
cheating
about the bribery, because that is something that is, I think, mostly pointed towards police. But we want to look at more on the police side as well, how they're involved and make sure that there is a reduction in these accidents. And I'll bring in Felix here. We're looking at all these fingers pointing to police, but Robert also did give a side of where the individual drivers on the roads can also contribute to these accidents, and how far we can go in terms of you know, putting our own protection. But what is the contribution here that could be seen from the side of police, maybe also bringing in government to, you know, try and reduce these accidents?
Well, you see, institutional duties carried by any state agency is either constitutional, by policy, or a matter of practice. But that must be backed up by will, knowledge, and standards. Truth be told, Uganda is not the only country where people drive cars. And I don't want us to make it look like what's happening here is anyway unique, or what should be happening here is unique. All the countries around us, last week there was a very, very bad accident in Kenya. I don't know, about 52 people lost lives. But in Tanzania, we have not had many, if you look at statistics. In Rwanda, it drastically went down, you know,
yes.
From, you can imagine, to a percentage of about 10 to about now 2. And so anywhere in the world, even when you go to Europe, the Western world, in America, and all these other countries. The reason why I want to bring on these examples is that unlike matters of politics or matters of money or what, these are things that not necessarily mean, actually, they don't need much of financing. They need much of what we call a given standardized approach to road use. The accidents we see here, and as Robert said earlier, which I may not concur with him entirely, when he said that accident must be a will of God, or an act of God.
Act.
But I think it's embedded in the word itself. It's something beyond the control of events. I don't want to attach it to God, but it's something you cannot really take charge over at that particular moment. That's why it's an accident. And actually, normally in an accident, there's most times it should come up that no one is to blame. That's what should qualify something to be an accident. Like everything was, for example, you find a situation where you can't blame maybe the driver or the one, all this. But what we see today is an evidence of a decayed society. Decayed. 1. 2, a society that has chosen a place of complacence. 3, a society that doesn't know the existence of any law. This is, I think, the most lawless country probably in the world. People here do not recognize the existence of laws. And it doesn't matter at what level, from the highest office to the lowest office in this country. No one takes cognizance of the existence of law and order. And one can challenge that. The evidence is before our eyes. in the morning as we came, even now as we sit here, the next minute till night drops. Now, when you live in a society that doesn't appreciate laws and order, this cannot, you cannot guarantee these abuse, because these are all results of abuses of law and order. Let's look at the examples Robert has given. One, overspeeding. The word is in itself over-speeding. It means there's a speed limit. For example, you have seen some of our brothers here driving cars now that have the Kia Subaru, here what?
Mark X.
Mark X. Honestly and truly, how do you attach a brand of car to
Speeding, yeah.
an illegal manner of driving? And it's supposed to be fashionable.
Subaru family, dangerous people.
I want us honestly and truly, and the national broadcaster and the various media houses, let's do a report, like they've done investigative, whatever, in all the, what we call public transport cars, and look into their conditions. In a scale of 10 public transport cars, how many of them are in dangerous mechanical condition? I don't think in this country there's a bus company that works internally that has any car that qualifies to be on the road. Go and look at all of them. Go to what? Jaguar, Bichi, Manya, you go. Tell me that this company, indeed, when we start testing the cars, they qualify to drive. Now, in internal routes, some of them start from about 5 hours to 10 hours journeys. I personally can testify that I have been stuck. A couple of years ago, when I used to use public means, I used to board buses to the up country. But there is no time I got in a bus and didn't have a mechanical problem.
They have new fleets now, and there are new companies that are emerging with
that's
brand
what they
new
say.
buses.
No, it's actually not true. What actually happens is they go and paint, it's what's called painting, or painting these buses. And they look, but they are full of filler. Posho like bazimeta buunga. I'm telling you, we need a stand-alone authority in charge of these big, these buses. Mostly, we need a stand-alone authority. Previously, there was a company, I think it's called SG, something that was supposed to check the roadworthiness of cars, which was
frustrated,
politicized. Let me not even say it was politicized. Regardless whether by opposition or government, whoever was whatever, there was some manyanga but that was one of the best ways to tackle road carnage. It's called roadworthiness. If a car doesn't brake, if a car can't have wipers working, flashlights, how do you guarantee movement? Now, it comes worse to this public transport. Have you seen the taxis in Kampala? Taxi, the wipers don't work, the glass is cracked, the car is literally
lights, no indicators,
is moving.
Nothing.
But it passes almost 20 traffic police officers every day. Let me tell you, when I say Uganda is a lawless comfort zone, that everywhere, when you fail to do something anywhere in the world, you can come and do it here. These cars that kill people every day, have you seen the garbage collecting cars? Peter Bantu every day. Why? It refused to stop. Smani what broke, this broke. They pack rubbish and it is, now you collect rubbish from, let's say, Kampala, but by the time you reach Stezi, the car is empty. It's falling. Now, who's the fool in this? You see, these things of pretense and bulletin reporting, People love to be in the news. Kirabo, the minister of this, said it is. Why are you blaming the other people? Have you done your part? You Minister of Transport and whatever and what? Parliament, have you done your part? You're part of the checks and balances. Have you ever called the Director of Traffic, the IGP, to answer to these questions? Other countries are doing these things, you guys. We are the only people who are not doing the right things in this region and in the world. We don't want to give examples of some countries, but we are forced to. In fact, when you go to those countries, some of them are neighbors. You want to come back and cane everyone here who's in authority. Or align them and just beat each folk, I don't know, whatever, do something. Because they are joking. Because
you're seeing possibilities and this is working somewhere else.
And I hesitate to mention countries, but for some of you who have traveled to Tanzania and Rwanda, let me not go to Europe, and Rwanda, you know the difference. Someone hits a light, when he actually, let me tell you, the most useless expense in this town were traffic lights. You put a traffic light here, and then you have to put a police officer to make sure the traffic light is respected. You get the point. That's a double investment. So why did we just leave the police officer?
You put a traffic officer, then you put one with a gun.
I stand to be challenged. You tell me a place where here they respect, and now we have these people, our brothers and now sisters also, who ride border borders. That is one of the best things that has happened to Uganda, yet the worst. It's a sweet, sour one. Everyone, you hit a road. Now, you have a very, very decayed, rotten, stinky car somewhere. Someone trying to save a life, to make money, a taxi, but he's carrying 14 people. You have a boda who's carrying another life, who's doing whatever they want. They all, actually, if they were able to ride on top of the cars, probably they would be doing that as well. Now, you have a Honorable Kirabo in whichever capacity. Today, even the RDCs have like every Tom Dick, as long as you can attach yourself to some government position, those ones are also there. Now, you have people who didn't go to driving schools, but because of panyas, they got. But nowadays, it's a bit hard. I want to credit, I think, the driving permit. But because there are many people who are scrupulous, who find their ways on the road without knowing how. Now, you have a bunch of about 5 illegal people who are doing illegal acts on the road. You cannot talk about road carnage. With roads which are not marked, with roads with potholes. Everyone is dodging a pothole. A car with Kasasiro, same road. A VIP, same road. Boda, same road. Ambulances, same road. A trailer, same road. A bus, same road. How do you avoid accidents? These things, what is a trailer doing at City Square at exactly 8 p.m.? This is a rush hour time.
Successing Ginger Road to cross through.
To where? Cross to where?
From Constitutional Square, that lane, then to drive.
This is a rush hour.
Connect.
For example, it's 6:30 to 7. Everyone is rushing. Simanya wakole nome, simanya tugende, who, nezileta newoli, aze kutikula bumonde. But once you use the City Square to offload Akirire up to Chikubo, that kind of joking. These are installations. You have the Parliament Avenue here. You have CPS. You have all these big installations. Why don't we demarcate some roads? As I've said time and again, Uganda, the problem is not necessarily this. We are just unserious people. And leaders, the led and the leaders, we are both unserious. Because this is how we survive, by being unserious. You get the point? If you try to be serious, you're kicking your own survival. So, for me, road carnage is a big deal, but not as big as you portray it. It is us. Everyone should just do what they should be doing. Other countries have done it. There is nothing wrong with us doing it. You have the cameras. Honestly and truly, when you talk about speeding, People, corruption. Robert, corruption and Mollen.
And I think
nothing can happen. We are not intentional. Sadly, our people are dying every day, but we are not intentional.
We're giving
I
gaps
think Parliament
for some
in
of
its
the
own
things
self
to
this
take
year
place.
has lost now. This is the third Parliament road accident. That should be a good wake-up call for them.
Well,
that should be a good
number
one.
have died.
And we
Actually,
do have...
yeah, just this year, but previously they have lost so many people. So it's not something we want to laugh about, but the only help we can talk about is institutions to be serious. Ministry of Works, the institution of police. But also, there's a time they even stopped buses. You remember there's a time particular buses were unlicensed. They said your license is going to be. What happened? I have a colleague of mine just lastly Mollen about this. They drove from a bus park here towards Masaka. The tire burst. They slept on the road. But they knew. These people, bus company, like he said, they knew. They just say, we may. If we learn, we shall learn. Have you seen the way they drive? The bus cars. Well, have you ever been on that highway, Masaka highway or not, and one of these global buses passes you? Your car is almost going to jump up, even where you can't overtake. Like, there's a lot of... We joke with people's lives.
Yes.
And most of the accidents we see here are not, as he said, they are not actually accidents. They are negligent. We simply neglect doing the right thing.
Well, we do have some of our viewers also coming in with their comments. One person here is saying the problem to carnage increases is to... How to solve this increase is to expand all roads. Check from developed world and some in Africa, Egypt and South Africa. If roads are given 3 to 4 lane with two-way traffic, that could be nice. And he also talks about another thing is giving a special road to be given to ambulances and police cars. And for those with sirens that are abusing road rules here in Uganda, regardless of their hierarchy, he says those are also contributing. That is saying Samba right there. We also have someone else who is coming in to say that the laws for parked vehicles should be be looked at immediately, as we are discussing here. And he talks about a company bus yesterday that one also in Soroti along Moroto Highway, where a young man rammed into a parked vehicle to death during evening hours, and the general concern is worldwide. That's one viewer also giving in their comment about this. Someone else is saying accidents are rampant due to several reasons, but the major one being ignorance of the drivers. Most people go to the roads without training, and they do not adhere to traffic rules. That is Derek Gagamel from Makindi, also talking about lack of road discipline among the drivers. One more again coming in, this person is saying the city should expand motorbike roads. I think they should have separate roads to the cars, and trucks should also have separate roads too, which will make a big difference and save more lives. And I think this is what Felix was also talking about. You have all these people, different trucks, motorbikes using the same route, and it's very hard to control that. But we want to look at how far we can go in terms of bettering ourselves, because we have given enough examples, especially for our neighbors in Rwanda, who have been able to constantly reduce the rate. But here in Uganda, we're not saying we're the only ones having accidents, but our rates seem to be going up rather than, reducing that. We're looking at how can we be part of the solution?
Well, we must look at this problem in all angles. One, you, the individual driver. Like I said earlier, why for me I first put it on you. I want to give you an example. When I was in school, one time it was a visitation, and I told my parent that mathematics was hard. We all failed. He told me, let's go to the notes board. The people, much as the best student had gotten an 85, but were those with 80s, 60s, and I was with my 40. He told me, but why weren't you the one who got this 85? Why am I bringing this example? that it begins with you knowing that I'm sitting under the wheel, but am my feet, is the car right? For every cause of an accident, even for a parked vehicle, that very day, that time it's spent, there are others who passed there. You know, when you go through a proper driving school and you're worth being on the road, you know it has rained, I must not go fast. You know there are these and these problems. There's even what they call defensive driving. In your heart of hearts, you know the dangers you're likely to have. Most of the accidents, I said, reckless driving, overspeeding, and DMCs. Now, at individual level, if we are all up to this game individually, first, and say, I can acquire a driving license without going for a test, without going for driving school, but because I'm going to drive a car, one time I'm going to have my family in this car. Let me ensure I know the road signs. Let me ensure I know driving properly. That is one, individual level. Two, institutions, among which is police. For example, the Road Safety, the Traffic and Road Safety Act, if it says stationed vehicles, now for this case, because it's what is making headlines, why was that vehicle not towed? For how long was it there? That is an institutional weakness. Corruption. You know, when you talk about these countries, talk about South Africa, talk about Egypt, broad lengths of roads, go back to our neighbors here in Rwanda, there is one thing we must know, and Felix rightly pointed it out, the rule of law and order. People in these countries, if you brought them to this country, they'll still be no better than us. But you know why? They know that the law works. Bribing a traffic officer in Rwanda, I've been there. My brother may be very, very hard to come back home here in Uganda. You know? When people know that you can dodge the law, definitely lawlessness will thrive, because there are fertile grounds for it to thrive. When you're talking about overspeeding, yes, it's a discretion of a traffic officer to pardon you, caution you, and all that. But how many per overspeeding? And when they're on the wrong side of the law, what does it say? Recently, we had an amendment, and the president said to it. We are waiting for Ministry of Works to do a few things to personalize it. That said now, overspeeding, people were excited that the fine is now 2 million. No. The law is saying a maximum of 2 million if you're found overspeeding. Not 2 million, but a maximum. All imprisonment not exceeding 3 years. So, is this a tougher law? You get it? And how is it going to be implemented? I want to be very tough with our police. That most of these accidents, as our people have their weaknesses, and some are very crafty, there is still so much a burden of traffic police. Let me tell you, Mollen, I've observed, I told you I spent some time when every time I go to cover casualties, accidents, interview people, and they'll tell you, this guy was stopped, and the taxi, have you noticed that in a public transport vehicle, well, as for you, when a traffic officer stops you, you park, hold on the steering, and wait for the person to come. Why it is advisable? Because in some countries, you may bend to pick something, and someone thinks you're picking a firearm. So it's advisable, put your hands on the steering wheel, lower your window, wait for the traffic officer. Then good morning, good afternoon. Yes, you've committed this offense. For public transport, when they are stopped, immediately picks some money and runs at the back of the car to meet the officer, gives him something, afande kangende, continues. When you look at even the little that government of Uganda has tried to give them in terms of monitoring, patrols, how many, you know, police has a challenge. How have they used the minimal resources they have to justify need for more? You have very few patrol vehicles. one person is escorted by two. But a patrol should be patrolling the area, that when you find such cars, when someone is over speeding, you should even be able to detect and notify your colleagues ahead that there is this car, number plate this model and maybe color, it is over speeding, because the crafty driver will know that these people are stationed somewhere. So they will reduce when they are reaching these roadblocks. But what happens? Patrols zirimu kwelekera abantu, zirimu kutwala bintu bitagasa. Even these motorcycles. Yesterday I was driving through around Golf Course. Actually I wasn't driving, I was in Acosta. We are coming from the burial of one of our workmates' brother. Now reaching Golf Course there, father. Now reaching the Golf Course, this is what I found. Officers, police officers, were interested in getting motorcycles than looking at the theft that was happening, where boys were picking mobile phones of people. Not even leave alone the traffic officers, but there are these others, those in this FFU, white and blue, then others in khaki. They are all ways a motorcycle, kaliwanka kwate, kaliwa na yubiganti, but look what is happening there. But their eyes are on, because I'm told, this is hearsay, not confirmed, that every motorcycle someone impounds.
Why are you telling us hearsay?
Every motorcycle, this is for you to research. And when you go, and why I may say this may be true,
Don't tell us hearsay.
that when you go to remove this impounded motorcycle from police, there is a question, ani yajikwata. So these young boys know that the many I get, the more at the end of the day I'm going to be paid. This was an avenue put in place to reduce accidents, because we need border riders that qualify with the documents. And I know Faneni Wabine, if you're watching, but has been one of the most abused. So instead of enforcing the law as it is, every opportunity, when you talk about police, there's when you have triangular reflectors, that if you have an accident, you put them there. For every avenue of enforcement, it moves away from enforcement.
And obviously that has created a big gap.
When you bring over speeding,
look at here.
and you talk of a maximum of 2 million, a police officer knows when he gets Felix over speeding and tells him, if I give you this receipt, it may be amount, it may be 600. Felix will look at that, then he say, but if you give me 300 or 200 or this amount. So every avenue, the resources they're having, I told you of these motorcycles, you find them, instead of moving around to look for criminality, but catching, impounding, not for enforcement, so much.
Well,
Finally,
we do have some
brief.
of our viewers as well here coming in. This is John Unique from Fort Portal, who is also talking about road carnage being caused by mostly corrupted officers on the roads who allow DMCs, non-licensed drivers, to continue, and overspeeding, and of course not following the rules. That is something that we have also talked about. And Amina from Australia is also saying that most of the Ugandan accident is caused by bad roads, not enough traffic lights. I think this is the second person here talking about the traffic lights as well that could be used to control congestion, people driving carelessly, and the fact that most cars must be written off the roads, and of course also bringing in the issue of DMCs. And we do have Walter here, who is also saying that we have talked about the causes of accidents, but the major ones include ignorance, police bribery, DMCs, and on top of that, failing to respect rules and laws, and not forgetting bad roads. Also, finally, government and all concerned parties should start doing what they are supposed to do. That is Walter right here also talking about that. We do have someone else who is also coming in from Juba, South Sudan, who is saying that government should plan for wider roads across the country, most especially in less developed districts, to avoid road carnage. Also in Kampala and upcoming cities, we are not addressing demarcations. That is Petia from Juba. But Felix, as just a little bit as we conclude, how do we reduce this rate in the increasing carnage?
Well, It's a little sad that we actually know what to do, but we don't do it by choice. Let's not even pretend. There's nothing scientific in reducing road carnage. All the things you have talked about and have nothing to do with money, for example. We are not saying there is no money. We are not saying that the people deployed are there. One time I asked here a question, why don't traffic officers work at night? If Kirabo, a journalist, has shifts, why doesn't a police officer install some harsher punishments? For example, I've told you, why don't we put barricades on traffic light places? If the light stops red, take the barricade. People don't want to learn the easier way. Let's teach them the hard way. Oria jato mere barricade tulabe kale. Secondly, this whole thing about corruption, we are the ones aiding it, because we know it's a quick way out. Let's not hide. All of us here have been victims at one point because we all drive and ride. But it must be a policy. As I've told you earlier, we must be intentional about stopping these things. We can't just come here and talk about them like we are also goddesses.
Yes.
In this country, actually, if you pull out corruption, this country may fall. The day you say corruption is zero, or the day corruption doesn't happen, in one day like this, this country may shut down. Because at least a big percentage of Ugandans live on a corrupt trail. It is unfortunate, but the reality. We must take it on without
two parties.
I don't want to pretend here. All of us have been beneficiaries.
Yeah, the one viewer here saying that it cannot be blamed on the police officers alone, even the drivers.
It is even us who initiate it.
Yeah.
Someone stops you, your third party is then you start It is so. These people have their faults, but also us, and this is a country problem. As I've told you, you pull out corruption in this country. If you've never seen a falling, you'll see this one will be the first one. So, this whole thing of road carnage, I think we just have to tighten a few knots here and there. The Department of Police should help us. I think also they need more staffing. One of the reasons why they are not present everywhere, police generally is understaffed. Generally, this is a matter of fact for all of us because of funding.
But the few that are there
even
also...
if I don't, because we are discussing now challenges and way forward, I don't want to start, but there are those who do a good job. We know
very
some
many,
of them
very
do a
many,
good job.
yes.
We have seen them impounding, but the problem is consistency and the existence of politics in every avenue of livelihood in this country. When you go to buy beans, there's politics in buying beans. There's politics in buying Buvera. When you talk about Buvera in this country, Tomanyi Gundi, it's my Muganda wa Gundi. When you talk about anything you talk about here, there's politics. When a poor you've seen how many of them have been shot and slapped. How many? These are stories we have read here. Sikari Biori, Bamkubye Sasi, Kazwatu now is amputated because they were politics. So, in this country, we have so many what we call small power political kingdoms. Like previously, we used to have that. You remember that funny meme of Gambano? Gambano. How do you think it came up? Police officer arrests Kirabo. Talk to this one. Political enclaves, those political kingdoms. we can't thrive. When you touch a border, now, when you stop a car, there's a time they say these cars that have sirens and lights, what happened?
They almost knocked them down.
They were almost going to kill a police officer. So sometimes you want to blame police. It's a sweet sour. There's a lot of political power in small... as long as someone here knows Mollen probably Mollen is another DC, but every friend of Mollen will become a abuser of law, because when you get them, Mollen, you get unknown. Then you start, Mollen starts, do you still want your job? So, even if you put everything well, But when many people, there is no centralized power. And this is cuts across, by the way.
It's enough to say that also their hands are tied sometimes.
Exactly. There's a lot of decentralized general power in this country. So we need to deal with that. That when, like remember one time when Kenyatta had taken office, he said, please don't call me when the anti-corruption comes for you. But here, if everyone has some sort of protection, and actually, Kirabo, the people who seem to be protected, when they know Kirabo, because Kirabo knows a couple of people. Now, now, my poor Kirabo here also like, and Kirabo is a center of power somehow, and he knows what I'm saying.
I don't know that.
So you're giving him as an example, or particularly?
You don't know. If they ever arrest you, call Kirabo. You will see.
I have
a challenge in the
Felix,
road.
I'll obtain a lot of money from your
For what?
for defamation.
We will also call that.
So there are many
but as we wrap up,
there are many robots.
As we
with
wrap
due
up.
respect. And that in its own self has killed the morale of police officers, the law system. You know, so and that's a general problem.
You talk about some.
It's enough to say that.
You say he added something also good. Even on these shows we do, you talk about someone, then you're all panicking.
So I think we need to get away. We need to get away from that, and obviously there is a lot that can still be covered.
We need to centralize power to His Excellency. The only person not to be talked about, that the rest of you Ugandans, anyone can discuss you.
We can talk about
and you can be enforced against.
And especially when it's concerning safety of Ugandans. This is something that is very concerning and cannot be downplayed. At whatever position you're in, it is not right for you to be using that position.
Traffic officers, Mollen, are walking on eggshells.
In dangers. That is something that I think government should very keenly look into. But we also want to look at what is happening with headlines this morning in the dailies, looking at the New Vision as well. 15,000 government workers lose salary in loans. And that is according to the Auditor General exposes unsolicited deductions. More stories. Amama Bitature pay tribute to Aponye. That is right there as well in the New Vision 4 this morning. Health institutions admission list out. And they also give you fake DNA test kits smuggled into Uganda. IGP Ochoa hospitalized. There's a lot to that story as well in the New Vision 4 this morning. But crossing over onto our neighbors, Daily Nation giving you a story, Ruto to Raila, stop the anarchy. Well, much more in there. Principals form team to check uniform prices. That is as well in the Daily Nation, nursing jobs, and a lot to be covered in there. But as well, looking at the main headlines in the Citizen for this morning, Burundian opposition leader pleas to Tanzania, and they also give you much more on that detail, what was discussed in that plea. Why substantial investment is needed for Tanzania's ports, much more on that as well to see in the papers for today. We will be taking a short break. When we get back, we look at what is happening on the roads in terms of traffic and also the weather update for this morning.
And in talking news, MTN has improved on their data voice bundles. You can now call across all networks for the same price. We've talked to several eyewitnesses on the ground, and this is what one of them had to say.
Amos, did you hear about the MTN daily voice bundles?
So, to join many more other Ugandans enjoying these MTN daily voice bundles, dial *100 *21# or use the My MTN app to start enjoying. Stay tuned for more offers from MTN.
The
biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center, which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000, and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UPC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
These days, our homes are no longer just the places we live. It's where we attend meetings, go to class, keep each other safe, and entertain ourselves. To do this smoothly, you need a reliable internet connection. Buy the MTN WakaNet router, which connects up to 32 devices and gets a free 40 GB data bundle at only 149,000 shillings. Or buy the MTN WakaNet MiFi at only 75,000 shillings and enjoy a free 15 GB bundle to stream, study, work, and play on the go. Visit any MTN service center to buy the MTN WakaNet router or MiFi and enjoy the internet that does amazing things.
This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, traffic this morning, looking at areas from Nakawa, Ntinda. If you're connecting onto the main Kampala-Jinja highway, we do have mostly clear traffic coming in from Nakawa side onto the highway, and also for Ntinda Road, if you're coming in using some of the connecting roads, also from Matters Way and Ntinda 2 Road, that looks to be clear traffic. But then again, via Ntinda 2 Road towards Katalima, you do have a little bit of traffic building up over there, and also the continuation from Ntinda to the main Ntinda Road, you do have traffic within that connection right there. But as you get onto the main Ntinda Road, you do have clear traffic. That should lead you onto the Kampala Jinja highway, which also has very kind of intense traffic as well between the connection from Ntinda Road to Katalima Road. So that is one that you should be aware of this morning. But also coming in from the Dana side, Newport Bay Road onto the main highway, that is the Kampala Jinja highway, you do have clear traffic over there. That does continue to the Lugogo area, you still have clear traffic over there, and it does continue all the way as you get into the roundabout connecting from Wampeo Avenue. You do have some intense traffic building up from Wampeo Avenue as you connect onto the roundabout. So that is one that you should be aware of. Also, the connection again from the main Nakawa side, the Kampala Jinja highway, you do have traffic over there also within that roundabout, as you connect from Old Port Bay Road, you also have traffic there. That also continues until you reach the traffic lights, the Kampala Jinja Highway traffic lights over there. And you're looking at also traffic coming in from Access Road as you join onto the traffic lights. That is indicated by the red lines right there on the map. That tells you that there is a bit of traffic that you need to be aware of. Again, as you join onto Kampala Road, there is a bit of clear traffic that should not really delay you over there. But then again, you do have a few areas with traffic lines, with red lines indicating a bit of traffic building up from Parliamentary Avenue. You do have a bit of that traffic right there, but also again onto the main Kampala Road, you have some clear traffic that should lead you into town quite okay. We'll also be looking at satellites for this morning over the country, looking at how the weather is looking like. And we have seen quite an intense system building up for the central part of northern Uganda that is already bringing in a few drizzles towards areas of Ulu Padel. That is extending all the way up to the Cholga region. So that means areas of Lira, we could also be looking at more rains developing for you this morning. That system is still there and it's also expanding, making its way across the central parts of northern Uganda. That means parts of Kitgum. Right now we're looking at cloudy weather for Kitgum, but we could also be looking at a few rains coming in later as the morning progresses. Also across Lira, do expect to have those rains come through, although it's not so intense, but they will be coming your way this morning. We're also looking at the northwestern part of the country, that is West Nile, to all through areas of Amuru and to Nebi, Arua, Yumbe. We're looking at a possibility of wet weather activity developing, but that will be later on as we cross over into the afternoon. Again, we continue to see cloudy weather this morning across much of eastern Uganda, Amuria, Soroti, Kabera, Maido, starting off with quite a cloudy one, although that will be clearing for more sun as the day progresses. Mostly sunny weather this morning across the Karamoja region that extends up to the Elgon area, Palisa, Mbale, Kamuli. We're looking at quite a mix of clouds and sunshine for you this morning, and that is likely to continue as the morning progresses into afternoon. But also for the Lake Victoria Basin, we're looking at areas of Tororo, Jinja, starting off quite sunny, as well as the areas of Kampala, Wakiso, and Tebe, a mix of clouds and sun. Mostly sunny weather again for the western part of Lake Victoria. That means across Masaka, we're looking at Liantonde, Remiaga, and that continues into southwestern Uganda as well. Mbara, Ibanda, starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. We do have possibilities of rains developing for the southwestern part of the country. We're already seeing more intense clouds starting to develop over parts of the Rwenzori area as well as southwestern. I'll leave it at that this morning. Do stay around. We have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming in right after this. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a good Wednesday.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
This is the University of Africa. On the streets, you get your real education. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. His reason is to be the GOAT. The reason to imagine is to take the beat and make it lit. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Amaina gange ndi namaganda Mariamu Monda myoga jaida emyoga ejitandika okuida nafunamu esente bampa yakakaira ke sente bwe bampa akakaira ke sente nayiye ekyokukola nasookera ku mutyere omutyere gwapanga beeyi naguvwako nanoni omwana twageddaga n'amagezi nagema esente edo namuga yaje yagula supeya ow'ebyuma muno pikipiki ne obugaali buti saa eno ndi kuyiiya okuleeta ebyuma ebimala ku bwena abakabiri bampaireyo ku esente nakuba okunoonya y'abaana babeegeresenga gano okukanika ki pikipiki era bali kujja mpolampola nga bakanika era esente bwe tunaaba tudifuna nenda kwongera mu maani mu sente bwenaaba ndifunye twongeremu ntewo bizinensi emala nenda okwebaza gavumenti egiira okutulowoozaako niife abagansi mu kyalo okufuna esente kuba twalinga n'esente nga tulumukira mu banka bugiri buti baida kunumba ng'eno najjayo ku bwe baida kunumba baida kutaa ku bigandiiko aye dino tutwalayo mpolampola nenda okwebaza gavumenti olw'okulowooza ku nsonga eyo mukama abawa omukisa.
In fulfillment of the constitutional obligation, which mandates the state to make reasonable provision for the welfare and maintenance of the aged, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is implementing the Social Assistance Programme for Empowerment, SAGE, designed to provide income security and reduce poverty among older persons. Over 300,000 older persons in 146 districts in Uganda have benefited from the grants. The income security has made life better for eligible older persons aged 80 years and above, registered with the National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA.
Ena meo chaho miya ate welo kere romo ena dongo te beru miya ni miya puru mogo eno keno te doyo kere mogo ana beru tiyu kere jama me konya gira kada do kada choti chok chene no gira ana miyo konya yore moro duchu ame miya teho hikwa me chuli chukul nyaho ni nyaha me neno tiyo owere kere niya para mano mi abuelo corre no.
This is a message from Expanding Social Protection, ESP, implementing the program under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. ESP, better life chances for all.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda, where we usually have a guest and we discuss issues of national concern. This morning I have a very interesting guest, and that is the Global Peace Ambassador, Milton Kambula, a man who has been around, observed the politics of this country, but also very passionate about promoting peace, not only in Uganda, but on the entire globe. Milton.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
You're most welcome. I love your tie.
Oh, thank you. It's a national flag. Because of this prominent topic you gave me, I thought the flag will be very important to ask Ugandans to also be the same.
So that's a sign of being patriotic?
Exactly. You know, putting on our flag is very important. You know, I think we should also start putting flags in our homes, on our streets, you know. Even manufacturing underwear, shirts, you know, flags. We have to eat our flag and wear it and feel proud of our power and influence on the future of Uganda.
Okay.
Very important.
I hope some of those won't be so hidden for nobody to notice. But we want to look at promoting peaceful politics on the African continent. We know that many African countries today are struggling with what we call democracy. This animal. They're interested, there are law books, there are constitutions, there are policies. Speak democracy. However, practically, democracy has not been something very visible or appreciated to the latter. Now, let's begin by looking at what is that is tainting or derailing Africa's political systems to be entirely democratic.
Particularly, we have a big elephant in the room. When you go 600 years ago, you realized Africa gave birth to the world we see today. You realize that Africa gave birth to the good governance systems we used to have. Centralized governance, and others were really chiefdoms, and you know. But all in all, with the incubation of civilization in Egypt up to Timbuktu, where leadership structures were shaping economies. You remember, that is to say, barter trade. We had a very strong economy, a very big social democratic system. We had strong kings, we had strong military, innovations, medicine. In Uganda here, for those who do not know, ironsmith started here. The iron smelting, making metals, it started here. When people in Europe were still in the, sleeping under the caves. This whole Inter-Lacustrine region knew the power of parliamentary debate, where each clan was represented at the center at the Bulangi. You can imagine the Zulu kingdom. We lost all that to our friends. Then there comes the uniqueness of the multi-party democracy. But then the birth to challenge the other movement system that we used to have on individual merit was challenged. And so it was unfortunate that they did not orient us on what multi-party democracy meant. Then it migrated, or it imported its other, I call them the deficits, the excesses of the system to do with hate speech, confrontational politics. I must do everything possible. You even forget that you are an accountant and you say it is only politics and politics alone. Can you imagine? But those days, a leader would have other professionals, other professions that he's doing, and so
voluntarily comes to serve.
Exactly, to serve, not to cheat. So that we must accept, that not everything that is put on the table you must eat. Africa, it was not ready for certain kind of things that were influencing governance and leadership that are not part of the African tradition. The things, yes, democracy is good, it is part of the human rights, but what guides it to be sustainable, to be meaningful to the people? And so the experience, of course, you share with me, Ugandans and our viewers. I thank UBC for this, for this air, brother. Thank you so much. Because maybe out of the 30+ millions of people watching us today, maybe 8 million will change. What we have been witnessing, Mr. Kirabo, is the politics that is violent, killing one another, confronting each other, pointing at each other. They are not providing solutions. You realize in African culture that before you point a finger to your neighbor, you must have a solution to provide on the table. But here we are, politics of undoing what others did even. After winning the election, you say now, the history of the other people must be dirty so that you look good. The opposition leader also must fight hard to pull the government down, to look at the bad things only. That is not African. You are aware about it. But at least for African values of Ubuntu principle calls for respect, calls for unity in diversity. That's why many years ago a king would marry ladies from different tribes to make sure that the king, different clans, to make sure that every clan is represented in the kingdom. It was not just polygamy as people misinterpret it. And the sharing of the national cake was really very equitable. Now, today, brother, after talking about the uniqueness, the challenges we face today, brother, the politics of even lying, kurimba, can you imagine?
Because it's more or less the winner takes it all.
Exactly.
And of course, when the winner takes it all, you have to, what is happening is you have to capture or get power, consolidate it, then retain it.
Now, changing that will require change of the heart. That's why I'm here. And even following the recent elections in, the UPC and NRM, FDC, NUP, you know, up to the level of the president of UPC, almost, you know, exchanging with with our brother, that is Dr. Tango Doi, and the subsequent other experiences. It's just data politics in Africa, on the whole continent. So now, the way forward is that...
Before you go to the way forward,
please.
You talked of something very important. You said we had our own way of doing things. This is not ours. This is something that was put upon us. Now, we've agreed to live with it. That today, even to be accepted in most of these international forums, you must have a democratically elected leader. If someone took arms, it is a coup, still you must find ways of having a democratically elected leader to be welcomed in this. And it has standards, what we look at as universal standards. Yet when we come to Africa, we fail to live to the universal standards. I think it was only in the USA recently that I saw former President Donald Trump, who tried to kind of bring a situation similar to what we see in some African countries. So with that, should Africa have its own version of democracy? Or should we work towards perfecting what we tried so much to connect what we have and what was before? So should we have something tailor-made? Most of the times I see Africa, the words of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. I've seen many, the recent Kenya president, speaking on these national forums, but trying to say, we know what we are doing. We know what is best for our people. Shouldn't come from overseas and dictate how we should run. But forget their principles that these people believe are a must if you are in multi-party democracy, if you are democratic states. So should we have ours, or we should perfect what is there?
What's important here is that we have reached a time where we assess the benefits of what we are given to us. And we also assess the influence Africa had in those many years. Then we measure. We really, these things don't need a lot of, but our professors don't come out to tell us, to research and give us options. That is my biggest problem with our partners, the professors. But to answer your question, I feel this is the time for us to re-image the future of politics, so that the young people do not look at every politician as a useless person. Because politicians are the ones that build narratives, that shape what should happen or not. They have the power that people have given to them. But they don't know how to use that power to influence the unity, the peace, the transformation of Africa. And that's where it begins from, by calling for integrating what belongs to Africa into the Africa's political narrative. And that is to say, for example, the vision of Ubuntu. The moment we bring the vision of Ubuntu, that you are because of I am because you are, then it means that we will not spend time fighting each other, playing politics of sectarian politics, bringing the aspect of pulling each other down, even if it is good. Mine is even taglined as opposition. Can you imagine? The taxpayer pays someone to oppose. Can you imagine? What type of, that is a stupid politics to me. Someone is paid, your taxes, we are poor people, and somebody is paid just to oppose. And even there is what we call opposition leader. Can't we find some, at least a better title? We have gone beyond that. Then not only that, you have the aspect of even the other side wanting not to appreciate the work relations that political parties can work together, religions can work together, companies can work together. The African context that we must make sure everybody's on his or her own island, which is not an African context. In this case, to change that narrative requires change of the heart first, as we have the President Museveni right now. He is an example of someone who's trying, because look at his government. You find there are some, actually his government is half opposition, half the former rebel leaders, guerrilla fighters, others are grandchildren of NRM, Bush War, others are the Bazukuru. He's trying, but somehow to conceptualize it is hard for him. That's why now I am here to help him bring in perspective the power that the politics that were given by our colonial masters will not work for us. Do you know why it will not work for us? Them, they are changing, but they are not allowing us to change. The politics, that people have the power. Let that power work and be seen working. What do our people want? They like peace, unity in diversity. So why are you telling us to play partisan politics? Constitution is developed around defending certain tribes, religions. The local person wants roads, the public service, the water system, the electricity to work. So why are you making the leaders paid a lot of money? Expensive politics, paying these as servants. We call them public servants. So a long time ago, Africa's leaders were looked at as servants, even though they are called kings. But you can imagine, kings did not have that power, for example, to segregate. In Uganda, it's an example here, the king has no power to chase me Mukonjo. Can you imagine? I have bought land, his land. The Batora coming, the northerners, he is, because the king in the perspective of Africa is to unite everybody towards the development. Now today's politics is geared towards uniting certain group of people in the name of political party and loot the country and loot the communities. That is in Africa now. Political party is the same, is let us make a political party to fight that government so that we can also eat. So you can imagine the difference.
These are seen as alternative governments.
And alternative governments in
no
looting.
Government in
looting, preparing in looting. That's why, to tell you that they are preparing for looting, is that they go beyond to even abuse the head sitting president and say, Moja murabanga itawo, ne nkukunyi, ne meseze. This is personal. We are talking about, we need the roads, education transformation, we need to talk about the curriculum. Why are you talking about Nkukunyiza Musajja? His family, his children. To show you that they don't have anything to put on the table. And this now gives the opportunity for any bright person actually to say,
Milton, when you talk about we were divided now into political groups, and we have opposition, we have those in the ruling governments all over Africa, we have multi-party system of governance. Now, we know over time, politics may not be a dirty game, as some people say, but the people in politics make it dirty. And rightly, you've said proper understanding the African context was all about tolerance and unity in diversity. Now, when you look at most African countries today, we have who we refer to as fathers. When you go to Tanzania, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. When you go to Kenya, still you'll find the likes of the later Jomo Kenyatta. Uganda, I may not be well, but still there are people that we really look at and say, among them is our current president. That we talk about the likes of Kwame Nkrumah. You know, we talk about Patrice those great, Patrice Lumumba, those great sons of the African soil that had a broader vision of Africa. And we see them, the likes of Nelson Mandela, that even after being arrested, he came out, and some thought now hell had broken loose for the whites, but he had a broader vision for South Africa to say that we can unite in diversity. Now, today, what is that we are lacking? To have people with greater visions of the African continent. Away from saying we're in the East African community, we are looking for the continental free zone, we have SADC, we have COMESA, just about it, but people that we see that understand and have continents, have countries at heart. It seems the African continent has also been divided so much by the political systems to individualism.
First and foremost, I will answer it in a humble way, because the answer is humble. I said, change of the heart until those on the opposition and those in government, as we are still alive today, it's an opportunity to use that power that the Constitution gave you as the leader of opposition, as the president of a political party, as the head of state. Change of the heart, because everything starts with change of the heart. Two, then after changing your heart, my brother, then you start appreciating the doctrine of living for the sake of the country. Not living for the sake of other people are working for me, and I. No, leaders must start now understanding that when we say leadership comes from God, it does not mean it is for you alone. It means it is to you so that those below you, the whole country, depends on you. So depending on you means that you don't own yourself. You owe people, the country owns you. So it means that whatever you're going to do while you're in leadership is for the benefit of the country, the benefit of the people. Now, when you appreciate that, then, Mr. Kirabo, then you appreciate the second segment is that we must build systems that work for the people. Not for my political party to oppose the other political party. That's the stupid politics in Africa. That's why now when you become head of state after winning the election, it is pertinent to also call for all political parties, all religions, all the kings. You are not the only, you are looking for systems to be independent and check you. Not having an electoral commission that is in your hands. How can a referee be a partisan referee? So you put systems to check you and take you to court. Let the court also, the judiciary, be independent to check you. To say, Mr. President, come to court because our local people are suffering from jiggers. How much money did we collect as tax last 5 years? So the parliament must also be independent to check also the electoral commission, to check the judiciary. Then you make also religions for peace, also to become independent, because they must be part of the future governments. Then the kings, you release them to also play their part, so that the kings can unite and control the values of Africa, godliness, the good character of our children, the stability of families. Then you put a certain cabinet on them, say you're also independent, to check the president, whether the president is still in the Pan-African doctrine, That is how the politics of the future will work. Without that, then it means we will continue boxing each other. And whoever has a big mass of finances in politics wins, because you buy literally the voters. Then the voters continue being ignorant, without power generally. It is written in the Constitution that the people have the powers, but they do not have the powers to act. Lastly, it's very critical, my brother, that now it's time, colleagues, that while we are alive, let's put our egos down. Egos down, because after all, we are too old. Someone is 60 years, 50 years. You know, so that song is called one. There is a song of a certain Uganda. They say, indeed we have eaten. Indeed we have accumulated some level of wealth. Yes, we can't go to exile. We are stable, the country is stable. Now let us now fly the nation so that it can compete with other countries of the world, because with stable politics comes the benefits of stable economy, stable education. Then people can actually build innovations, and other countries come with investments. But that will happen if politicians on both sides, I mean the opposition and the government, sit together and start learning the culture of dialogue, reconciliation, reconstruction, and then we agree even to change the constitution. I will not listen to you. Why do you oppose me before listening to me? And before tear gassing me, why can't you also sit with me? So we end this character of shooting people. It is a human right, for example, in the Constitution, to say, I am coming to City Square. You know, the City Square is now a barracks.
A Constitutional Square.
It's called the Constitutional Square. It was put there, it is in the Constitution. But even if I am there, I want to riot in the Constitutional Square, I have no gun, but the police, some people...
Because you didn't follow the procedure.
The procedure is that I must come to Constitutional Square and put my chipande that I don't like Herefeke of Uganda. So who are you as the IGP to send those troops whose money comes from my pocket?
So there must be rule of law in a democratic state. It's not all about what you think or want and feel, much as it is your right, but of course as you observe your rights, you must not limit the rights of others.
Let me tell you, my brother, in Africa, it's unfortunate that when we took over power, we did not expect changes of the next generations. Today's generation is that human rights must be observed and enjoyed, and states must defend them to make people, you know, cherish them and walk in them. It's like ekiwundu kiri munda, oyagala kibere munda, ekiwundu ky'omunda kirumanyo kitabubi. Let people have gaps. That's why the Constitution gives them the leeway to expose their anger through peaceful means. Remember, peaceful means. At where City Constitutional Square. Constitutional Square is the location put in the Constitution that people who actually are not happy go there and peacefully demonstrate. Now for you, you bring black mambas. You tear gas people. So those are some of the things that we need to appreciate on both sides, basically. But the government or the opposition and people like us, we need to sit together and build politics that work for the country, that is based on vision of peace and shared values.
Well, I'm still with the Global Peace Ambassador, Milton Kambura, with whom we are discussing a call for peaceful politics in Africa. Many a times we cherish the word democracy. Many African countries adopted democracy. It is very hard to find a number of states where we still have lack of multi-party democracy, but this has not sailed so well with us. We see a number of, whenever countries have elections, we register death, we register a lot of violence, we register a lot of complaints, we register those that are going to court believing they were rigged. So it's so chaotic. Even when we are now for a parliamentary seat, still you hear there was beating, by elections. You know, it is... But let's look at the element of commercializing politics. Because rightly you said, and at the beginning of this show, you anchored so much on the context of Africa, what it was and what it is today.
Yes.
That with this commercialization, anyone would tell you, if I became a member of parliament, I'm very sure if I didn't have a house, I'll be able to buy a house in a fairly good place in Kampala. As you're being sworn in, banks are all over parliament waiting to give you a loan, maybe to a tune of $1 billion. You know, because now you're sure you're going to be getting good money. So you can, you know, many people, it's a dream that all men assume that once I get to the August house here, district chairperson, someone just tells you once you're there. We have mayors of cities, you know. Once you become a mayor, you know. And so we have councillors. I saw councillors City Hall here. Someone says, "Goma, you say the councillors have no work." It is not so much of what someone is going to do for the people, but it is so much on what is contained in this position. People are no longer coming to serve. Some are no longer coming to serve. So let's look at that commercialization. Previously, we would see people, I remember, when we first had, I think, LCs, people were telling me that they would, it wasn't even you to stand and say, elect me. Someone had to propose your name, and sometimes without even your consent.
Exactly.
Someone in the village council wakes up and says, Milton Kambura should be our chairman.
Exactly.
Another one says, yes, yes, yes. Then they tell you, well, people have chosen you. Who is saying, oh, very brief, and someone would say, well, thank you for this opportunity, but I choose to step down because I'm busy and this. Today, it is you who traverses the entire village.
You live in the city you are on.
Elect me, elect me.
And bribe
so
the
money, the issue of money.
So, brother, we have this biggest problem. The problem actually is that we have wrong people in politics. The right people have even they fear the game. We have hooligans who put on suits like this one. I'm not saying me, but we have people in the system calling themselves leaders in private and public sector, not just politics alone, but even in the church, in the mosques. We have some people there, and you say, the pastor who has commercialized the word of God, of Allah, he's there. How can a pastor who is in a community that even if you added them, their economy of 3 million people in a community, they cannot reach even 20 million shillings. But the pastor is driving a V8. Remember, they depend on what? On tithe. The man came who was in on foot. 2 years along the road, no business, he has no business, not educated. V8. He's even buying a plane. But in the church, the poor people, even he doesn't allow them to be on the door. He just says the lame people, get out, you are smelling. Then now it is no longer now coin or 1,000. They even say 10 million to pray for you. Can you imagine? That's where it begins. Because the politicians we see come from the rotten community. The parent playing politics in the family, cheating the mother, and vice versa. The child is learning. In school, they are even cheating. Elections on heady girl. Now you see it at the top in the parliament. The parliament you see today, white cannot get pregnant in providing impact on the continent of Africa. The mismanagement of natural resources, the connivance between presidents and their parliaments and the judiciary. You cannot expect anything. That is why the African man will continue being under the table while the colonial master is ruling us through the curriculum that he left here. The poor foreign policy. Because nobody is there to think apart from collecting tax and feeding their stomachs. But their time is over. Cancer, pressure, and diseases related to poor lifestyle and drinking and having stress. So stealing more, investing in America, Japan, let me run here, exile. Their time has reached because the younger people now know. Do you know why they know? they feel it is a time for them to produce innovations to sell around the world.
I've not seen any that are acting any slightly different when it comes to commercialization of politics. The young people, it seems they're inheriting what they have found, the mistakes of their forefathers.
Now, commercialization of politics.
Yes.
I have told you where it comes from. But secondly, is that as leaders, colleagues, I am here, I'm a leader, we bear great responsibility to be exemplary, to be seen that we are people that care, that love, that are compassionate about the needs of our society. How can you be a leader, a great leader, a rich leader, but your community you lead is in abject poverty? They are still even dying of jiggers. Those communities still have the problem of identity-based clashes. One tribe is killing another. For you, you're a leader, you're called a leader, and you're in a parliament in a suit like this one. You're a president in some country somewhere, and you say, you know, at the UN, you know, they usually they are taken to America. And funny enough, these people know us that we are using this. So they make them line up to for example, greet the president of America. It's not like those pictures you see that they have had a meeting, you know, 1 hour. It is just a lineup. 1 second. Say, I want some grant. Okay, we'll see. Go there. Another. They are like prefects. So let me tell you, commercialization of politics is the worst thing today Uganda, for example, has. That a group of people raises money and give to Mr. Chisobi, for example. After giving you money, you win the election. So whoever has given you a loan must become a minister. Whoever has killed more people in the guerrilla war struggle must become a minister. Now that kind of politics shaped now cannot pregnant development. Why? Because you have rooters. You yourself, you fear the people you have nominated on the cabinet. Because literally you are under their scourge. Because you cannot say Gwengenda Kugoba. The man say, I killed the, you don't know that I was your bodyguard. You don't know that I am the one who provided the money for public address system. That is now, it is what we call political manipulation. Time has come right now, as I talk to you to this television, the national broadcaster, calling for peace, peaceful politics. Peaceful politics, by the way, is healthy. Because as you go to get all those looters to come and loot for you, and you become their leader, the chief looter, the chief corrupted, you know, these are corrupted people. You will not even achieve peace. They will first of all arrest you. When they see you are no longer, you want to change, they will even throw you in exile.
Well, Milton Kambura, Global Peace Ambassador, a very interesting character that I have in studios this morning when he's talking about peace, very passionate in that area. And of course, we are trying to call upon the African continent. How do we have peaceful politics in Africa? We went to democratic rule.
Yes.
Most, I think, apart from, is it Swaziland, we do not have very formally active traditional leaders, the kings that they used to be. Now we have this system that we inherited from our colonial masters. Now there is also a school of thought that this is intentional for Africa countries to have this nature of democracy, because it is all about pre-colonial period. That the white man left Africa but left the boots, and these books of governance.
You have said
Africa,
it very well.
Africa, and this is what is disturbing and disorganizing Africa. Do you succumb to this feeling, or are we just having our own mistakes and we shouldn't blame them?
Now the time is today. If you are complaining about the Bazungu, today you have the power to even review a constitution. To say, last time they talked about
most of the times when we have big challenges, you find a pure, sober African man waiting for solution from United States, from England.
Those are not leaders.
I was at the UK Parliament. You be ready. We've gone to UK, we were at the Parliament. We've gone to USA. We've surrounded this leadership with information and tainted it.
These are investigators.
So we are waiting.
These are
anytime a solution
now
is coming. Let me just give you something that was a mocker and a jokery. think we had just finished 2021 elections. There was, you hear that Mary story?
Yes.
Towards, you see, because some people were eager that there is help coming from somewhere, that our solutions to our problems, we see them to come from our colonial masters, not to be solved by us.
Now that's why I like the generation. We are the same generation. The President Museveni have served their time. They have done their job. The battle they used to fight, really, if you were in their time, definitely it would be a different story. That's why Julius Nyerere Kambarage in his books says, and even Nelson Mandela had the same kind of understanding, that it is up to that generation to solve those issues they face of their time. Now, our time, we cannot allow manipulation of Africa. That's why President Ruto, if you are hearing from him, he's asking for equal partnership, equal-leveled political understanding. The United Nations General Assembly must welcome the interests of Africa and put us on the same table with them. Yes, we don't have a nuclear power, yes, but our nuclear influence in our capacity to feed the rest of the world. We have the food that we are feeding the rest of the world. We have the nature where they came from. This is home for all of them. So we may not have nuclear power, and we need it for, of course, of energy, but our power is in values, strong culture, our unity in diversity. We are the black man that produced the rest of the world. So why shouldn't we rise up as young people and say, hey, you old people, give us space, nurture us. The challenges that you have had, tell us to break them off, and one of which is to break the barrier of colonialism, neocolonialism, imperialism, and that means to develop your own educational curriculum that fits in your capacity to allow young people graduate with capacity to make the jobs, the innovation, the vehicles, because we have the raw materials. Then you only import, or export rather, finished products. Then you cut down all these import or what. That is one of them. Constitutionalism. Put the people that own the influence of Africa on the table. Cultural leaders, where are they in the constitution? Do you simply represent, you say, there shall be a king? What is the role of the king? Just like the constitution of the country. When I read on that, I say, Mr. President, you mean you just recognize the kings? Don't you know the influence the kings can have on the society towards Pan-African values? But the kings also are in the palaces. They don't even fight for themselves. They are not united. They are still putting it, because they have also land. Now you look at the political parties and say, hey, what value Ben can achieve as it to achieve? A younger man is in politics, but he has no vision. He has no political philosophy. He has no economic philosophy. He doesn't know if he became a president, where am I taking the people? But you see them flying America, hey, now taking a selfie with M16s, you know, MiGs, the PDTs, the nuclear bombs. Are they bringing war? I thought war ended last time. So we have to be careful now. And so this means that the leadership that we need, first and foremost, we must educate the population.
Okay.
I wish Museveni gave me money, grants, to go and have the mindset of the people trickled out, so that people start voting the right people. That is one. Until you change the mindset of the voters, they will still continue, maybe, so that they can be rulable. But that it turns against in the long term.
Well,
can I give this point?
Yes.
We must unlock the potential of each Ugandan, individual Ugandan. I mean 45 million people. Because we must inherit a country that is organized, personal, and they give us resources, some of us, to go and start visiting each Ugandan. That, hey, elections are coming 2026, but please, a leader looks like this. This is the role of the MP. This is the role of the LC1. This is the role of the church. This is the role of the Muzigiti. So they must understand, and for you to vote, please, you must be 18 and above, but very important, look for a good character in the leader. Look for a person that fears God, someone who's exemplary, who's not a rapist, who's not corrupt. So what do you
Nelson, I must let you go in the interest of time. Let me just have your final remark.
Of course, mine is simple. I call upon the change of politics, the call of peaceful politics that is healthy, that is tolerant. You tolerate each other, you know. You dialogue. After all, this thing is not personal. You can do another jobs. Who told you politics is the only job? And two, we must look at politics not as a money-making sector, but a sector to serve the country, free of charge. Free of charge. I don't know why these VATs, you see them bodyguards, it means you're criminals. You see 50 people guarding one short man. You're a criminal. So
thank you so much for your time. Milton Kambura, Global Peace Ambassador, very interesting character that we always have on a number of pertinent issues. And of course, we've been looking at the call for peaceful politics on the African continent. Most of the countries now are yearning and have democratic systems in place. But how do we ensure that they are actually serving and observing the fundamental guidelines of what defines a democracy, both in practice and in the law books, which is the various constitutions? See you in the next hour. Ruben is ready to give you sports updates. Good morning.